Originally I'm from Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin.
Okay, so you grew up there until,
Yeah.
Did you go away for college when you went to school?
No.
Did you go to school?
No, my college, I always tell people my college was going on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I went on the road right when I was 18. My first tour, I played guitar in a band,
Mm-hmm.
and stayed on the road ever since, pretty much.
And what, when you were growing up, kind of triggered the interest in music for you?
I was always surrounded by music.
Mm-hmm.
At a young age, started playing drums when I was 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had music surrounding me my whole life, and I knew from the very beginning that's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Even as a kid, I'd build like Lego sets that were like stage sets, and
Mm-hmm.
would, stuff like that. So I was always into it and always wanted to do it, and just played music ever since I was a kid. So that's all I cared about, and that's all I focused on. And I think throughout high school that was a big distraction
Mm-hmm.
from the education
Yeah.
part. I just cared more about music, and that's what, when I had the opportunity to go out on the road at that young age, I did. But I played my first show when I was 11,
Mm-hmm.
and then just did local shows for years. Had a local band, did everything with that. Did all the, I made our own stickers. I made our own T-shirts. I got all the, cassettes made. Back then it was
Yeah.
tapes. But I did all that stuff. So that was my, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
So when did it transition from you playing in bands to being behind a desk but still working in music?
well, it was always kind of, I was told at a young age to always have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, when I was a kid, my uncles, who were all musicians, they told me have a backup plan because being a rock star doesn't always pan out. So for the longest time, I thought they meant I'd have to be a doctor or a lawyer or something else, and I had no interest in any of that stuff. So then I figured out to start learning the behind the scenes, the managerial aspect of getting things done, and that's when I started making my own T-shirts and flyers and booking my own shows, and just kind of going more at not just playing music, but just doing all of that stuff, how to get it done, how to make it happen. And then I guess it was probably it would have been, I had 2 bands that we toured internationally for quite a while, and it was 2005 when those, like the second of those bands, we decided to call it quits. And I was talking to a friend of mine about looking for another drumming job, and he said, well, I don't know anyone looking for a drummer right now, but you ever think about drum teching? So I said, yeah, sure. What was it pay? And it paid more than the temp job I had at the time, so I went out and did that. And honestly, if it wasn't for making that decision, I don't think I'd be here working for Kevin Lyman, Warped Tour, because the band I went out with, the first couple tours we did were Warped Tour and Taste of Chaos. Actually, it was Taste of Chaos first, which Kevin produced, and then Warped Tour, and then another Taste of Chaos, and another. I started working for another band who did those tours as well, and it was just years and years of just like in a row doing all of those tours.
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me here,
Okay.
essentially. But I think if it wasn't for all those years where I kept my mind open and always wanted to learn about the back end side of it, the production side of it, or the managerial side of it, I don't think I would have had that, the organizational skills on the road to handle stuff like this and to be a tour manager. And I think that's kind of ultimately what Kevin and everyone else at his company saw, is that I had that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any mentor figures along that way that kind of were teaching you what to do, since you were teaching or trying to teach yourself?
It wasn't any one specific person throughout the journey. It was a handful of people. There was a lot of tour managers along the way, just doing do this one tour. I try to pick their brain about stuff, and learn a few tips here and there, and just it was more observation. just observing people and how they handle a situation, or how they advance a show, or how they settle a show, or whatever it was. It's always a constant. My brain is like a sponge, just always looking to soak things up, and I still do that too. Like, I may feel like I'm in a good position work-wise out on the road and in the music industry, but there's always stuff to learn. There's always new things to learn. So it was just kind of like, it was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the first year that you were having this type of job on work for, not in a band or out in the field, but more like on the production?
It was 2008. Sort of 2007. 2007, I lived in Chicago at the time, and Kevin had an office there. His sponsorship department was in Chicago. It was just two people. But I didn't have a tour set up. Like, all the bands I was working for took that summer off. So they wanted someone in the office while they were both out on Warped Tour to kind of go, just kind of keep track of the emails and certain newsletters that needed to go out or whatever, just a handful of stuff. So that I did that. So that was technically my first year working for Kevin or working for Warped Tour. I got a paycheck from Warped Tour, but I wasn't out on the road. But 2008 was my official. Kevin hired me to come out here and work in the production office. So yeah, that was that.
So can you explain? I've heard that you do multiple different things out here.
Yeah.
What are some of the different things that you do for work?
Well, one of the big things that I do every single morning is I put together the schedule. Kevin writes the schedule on what time slots he wants the bands to play, but he doesn't put times. He just kind of puts the order, and then I take what he writes out and I've got a grid that I use on the computer, and I'll throw it in the way he has it written, and then I'll configure the times, which I got to take into consideration where the stages are set up each day, and every single day is different. There's a lot of bands tend to share techs, front of house guys, or guitar techs or whatever. So I can't place those bands if they're playing different stages. I can't do them. I can't have those bands playing at the same time because they share one person. So it's a lot of that, so that takes quite a while, and so that's one of the things I do. The other big thing that I do is I handle all the immigration and customs for when we go into Canada, in and out of Canada. That's a pretty big undertaking in doing that. I handle all of that, and then one of the other things I do is hotels, like for our staff, anyone on one of our production buses, days off, even the driver rooms, well, I don't do much with I don't do anything with the driver rooms, but days off, travel days, I put together a rooming list. I've got to know exactly who's on the tour, and I have to make sure I have the rooming list all put together, and then when we actually get to the hotel on the day off, I go in and check everyone in. And I also advance with the hotel and make sure they have the bus parking and make sure they have the updated rooming list. I do directions each day.
For the drivers?
Yeah, for the drivers. We put all the drivers get a bag lunch at the end of the night. So, but I got to make sure, and I talk to our lead bus driver, I talk to our lead truck driver. We kind of go through the route and make sure it's correct and got all the mileage correct, and that's the official route. So, so I do that, print it out, and then they go make copies, put them in the lunches. I send them to Courtney, and Courtney sends out a mass email to everybody. All the tour managers get them. So I do that, and just a couple other, random things here and there, into tour stuff. All of our people, they need to fly into the tour and they need to fly home. So I work along with, Lisa helps out and Courtney helps out, but I have to get everyone's flights booked. They all got to get home somehow, and someone's got to do it. So I put all that, information together and share it with my travel agent, and then they book all the, he books the flights, or he sends them over, and then I get them approved, and he books them. And
so it's a lot of working with Is it a lot of working with travel agents or just on that flight aspect?
Yeah, well, the hotels and the flights, we work with the travel agent.
Okay.
But they get all the information from us. So I've got to gather the information from my people, our people here that we're responsible to book their flights for, and then send it over to him, and he books the flights.
Okay, got it.
It's better to do it that way. You know, a lot of canceled flights or delayed flights and stuff like that happens. They just call the travel agent, you know? He can deal with it.
Yeah. How much of that work are you able to do before the tour actually starts, and then how much of it do you have to stay organized with while you're here?
You know, well, one thing, and because I work full time for Kevin throughout the year, and I'm technically operations manager for the company, so we've got 3 tours that we do each summer, Warped Tour being one of them. So I do work before the tour, gathering a lot of information. Obviously, all of our staff has to fly from wherever they are to get to wherever the tour starts. This year, Salt Lake City. So I have to make sure, and I do a lot of personnel, HR kind of stuff. Get all their pertinent info on payroll and stuff like that, and then find out where they want to fly from, and make sure I have all their full name and date of birth, and I put a grid together, and I send that grid, and I keep updating that grid and resending it to the travel agent to get all the flights booked. So I do a lot of that. Hotel-wise, I start putting together, based on our routing, where we're going to spend our day offs, what makes the most sense mileage-wise and location-wise, and I put a grid together with mileage and where we want to go, and I send that to our travel agent, and she starts going through and looking at hotels and calling hotels, because we do 140 rooms, and you know, we don't have a lot of time at a hotel. A lot of times it's less than 24 hours, so we always have to try to work with the hotel and have the hotel work with us in terms of seeing how early we can check in, you know. So it's a lot of that stuff, but yeah, there's a good amount of stuff that I can do before the tour starts.
Got it. And then when you're staying organized and actually going through all this, is it mostly Excel and just emailing people attachments in Excel?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's definitely a lot of that, and you know, it's funny because during the off season, there's a lot of like there's a few companies that make like tour management software and, you know, things that you can put all your travel info, you can put all your hotel, but and maybe some of that will simplify things, but we've been working on certain Excel grids that it just works. You know, it's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So yeah, it's a lot of that, but you know, to me it's easy because I know it. You know, and I mean, in terms of sharing stuff with people, you know, last year was the first year we started doing, you know, an email blast where it's got this. It's a nice presentation, we've got a nice theme, and we just plug things in as we go, and it makes it really clean and easy, not just an email with, you know, mumble jumble and attachments and stuff.
And that's the production email that everybody
That's the
gets.
production email that everybody gets.
And I can testify that it is good looking.
It's, yeah, right?
It's well put together.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's like, this is where this is, this is where this is.
Yeah, it's broken up
I think
into
it makes everybody's job easier.
Yeah, it's broken up into sections, and it's cool, and you know, we had help putting all that together, and it just makes everyone's lives a little easier, you know. There's just a lot of info we have to get out. There's a lot of people that need info, you know. And if we leave everyone guessing, then no one's going to be able to know where to go,
Chaos.
or when to get there, or
You couldn't function.
no.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And before we had that, basically we would do the same thing, but instead of email, it was really old school, and we would. You know, Lisa and I probably alone, you know, we'd sit, you know, half our day was making signs, making notices, and having people go out, and we'd actually go out to all the buses and tape signs on the buses. You know, like tomorrow we're having a Warped Tour prom, you know. To get all that information out, we'd have to make a sign and go out, you know, and keep the original copy and just keep making copies of that and putting them up around catering, around production office. It's a waste of paper. It takes a lot of, you know, time, a lot of man hours wasted. So, yeah, the email's nice, but yeah. So that's really what I do out here, you know.
So what are you gonna do once this tour ends, since it's wrapping up?
It is wrapping up. Yeah, it's wrapping up. I'm gonna go. Normally I would either just go home or go on vacation somewhere, but I played in bands. Like I said before, I played in bands for years, and one of the bands I played in, we've kind of got back together and we're doing some more stuff. And so I go right from this tour to rehearsals in Chicago, and then 2 days after this tour ends, I'm playing a show in Cleveland.
Wow.
And we do a little East
Right
Coast
back at
run.
it.
Yeah, do a little East Coast run, and then we fly out west and do a couple dates out there. So, but it'll be good. It's like 9 shows. It's maybe 2 weeks. You know, so by August 22nd, I'm home.
So it'll be a good change of pace.
It'll be a good.
Flip it again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still be out on the road, but it's totally different. You know, it's going to be 6 of us in a van as opposed to 1,000 people on this tour. And
Yeah, you just
crazy.
have to take care of yourselves.
Yeah, but it's good. You know, that's what I did for years, and it'll be fun. That's the thing. It'll be a lot of fun.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for
You're welcome.
answering our questions.
Of course.
Now
Absolutely.
we're getting